Hello and welcome to Maz Makes Stuff. In this video, I'm going to show you how to convert a .ply point cloud into a printable STL mesh. First of all, what is a .ply point cloud? It is basically a file that you could get from someone. It's basically a 3D scan that was not converted into a three-dimensional mesh. It's just points. These files tend to be a lot smaller, so that might be why someone would deliver them to you through email that way. Because basically this point mesh is like under 20 kilobytes, but after you create the three-dimensional object that's a mesh, it can be like 100 meg, depending on complexity. And I'm sure your .ply point cloud is going to look a lot different than mine. Anyways, so the two different software applications that I used to make this mesh into something I could use, I used Meshlab, so that's what I was just spinning around in. Meshlab is a open source 3D design software. There are plenty of videos on YouTube already where you can learn how to use this. Feel free. And the other package that I'm using is Autodesk Meshmixer, which there are also lots of videos on YouTube. There you can learn more. But of course, this is an all-inclusive from beginning to end. How do I make these points into something I can print? So when you first come into Meshlab, you're going to do a file, import mesh, and then you're going to select your .ply file. Now the reason you know it's a .ply file is of course because it says .ply. So you'll select your file, import it. The first thing that is usually common issue with this particular file type is that the points are like reverse and they're not like actually pulled to the surface, basically. So what I do is you go to filters, and then under point set there's compute normals for point sets, so you'll click on that, and then I left all the defaults. Click apply, and if you can see, there's lighter points that got like kind of all over, and after you're done with that you click close. And now that I have my new points that are, computed to their normals, you'll do filters and then remeshing, simplifications, reconstruction, and then on the very bottom there's screen poison surface reconstruction, and you'll click on that. Once again, I do just the defaults, click apply, and now you have your new colorful mesh. This is not really a solid mesh though. It technically still has a hole in it and stuff, and it kind of has a little bit of weird bits in some areas that could be taken off. Of course, you can refine this further in other softwares or even in here if you would like. But for this instance, the next thing that I do is select your poison mesh in the layer dialog. So this whole thing on the right is your layer dialog. If for some reason it happens to go away, if you don't have it, the way you can get it is by clicking on view up here and then show layer dialog, and it'll come back. Just in case, because I do weird things where I like randomly close stuff and then I'm like, where did it go? Oh no. So under filters, and make sure you have poison mesh selected here. Under filters, you'll do another, you're going to do sampling, and then it's poison disk sampling. Click on that. Leave the defaults. You could mess around with them and come up with stuff, but I just left the defaults. Worked good. Hit apply, and then close. And then now I have this new thing in my layer dialog that has disk samples. So if I hide my mesh, I can now see those points. So the difference between them is those points, they're more condensed and like basically the raw data. And then this is more refined, sort of captures only the necessary curvature It does degrade the mesh a little bit. So how I'll show you here, if we go back to filters, next step is we'll do another remesh, screen poison surface reconstruction. Use defaults, click apply, and then close. And see, now you can tell that like it's kind of more of a refined mesh compared to this other mesh that kind of seems like it has more faces. Of course, as you can see in here, there's just under 10,000 for the new mesh that I'm going to actually export, whereas the first one, it is almost 55,000 faces. So depending on how fast your computer is or how many faces you actually need, the other one would probably be unnecessary. Plus this one looks a little bit better. So now my next part is I am going to take this out of Meshlab and put it into Meshmixer to cap it and make sure it has a flat bottom. So under File, there's Export Mesh As, and your typical kind of export, do your thing, however you so feel it. Make sure it's STL. That's not the right foot, that's the left foot. And this one is the mesh. Yep, exactly. Yeah, okay. So now I can go into Meshmixer and import that mesh that I just exported out of Meshlab. And it looks like pretty much a normal thing that you would stick in here. So under Edit, I'm gonna do a Make Solid. And I prefer to use Accurate under Solid Type, so I change that to Accurate, and then click Accept. And then now, depending on how your mesh looks, you might not have a flat bottom. So in that case, you would want to use a plane cut and drag the plane down so that way it just cuts off the very bottom to make it flat. Of course, mine's already kind of flat, so there's not a whole lot of point in doing this, but you know, yeah, better safe than sorry, right? And now I have something that I can now send to the printer. So I can do my export, and sure, yeah, it was already there, totally. No, that's not right. Change the name. Okay, because that's the solid one. And then now I can go into my 3D printer interface that I use, which I use Repetier. Some of you other peoples may use that too. So you import your file, and for this, the scale didn't carry over, so it looks like the little itty bitty, like, you know, a foot that'd be on an ant, maybe. I don't know. An ant might be a little bit big. Maybe a flea. Scale to maximum, because that's cool. And then yeah, you can cut your foot up and make your pads for the printer to do some stuff. Those are 2 feet. That's 1 foot. Anyways, so there's something I wanted to show you because let's do this again. Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna import the other foot because the other foot has a little bit of a problem. So the same thing, it was under filters. The first thing is compute normals for point sets. Next thing to do is filters, remesh, and screen poison surface reconstruction. That sounds like so crazy. Let us do a thing, hit close. Make sure you have your new mesh selected. And do another sampling. Poison disk sampling. Now the reason I picked poison disk sampling is because point cloud simplification, it really like decimates your mesh. You really don't want it decimated that much. So that's why I do poison disk. Same thing, apply. And then now from my new little dots, my little vertices, I can do, oh, where'd it go? Oh my, yep. Same thing, and apply. And that just looks so weird. It has like no shading. Oh cool, so you can see it inside. Now you might know what's wrong with it, but I'm going to leave it a mystery and fix it in the other software. So select your mesh that you're going to export. File, export mesh as. And this one is going to be a mesh, but it's a right foot. Are you right-footed or are you left-footed? Actually, is that actually a thing? I don't even know if that's a thing. And then I'm going to import, show let's append, the right foot mesh. Look, I got me another foot, right? Okay, so it looks kind of weird, right? So if we look at the original, so what this is called is flipped normals, right? So it can sometimes cause problems with certain things, but with this case, all I have to do is just go over here and do select. I use Control A. You could sit there with the paintbrush and paint it if you'd like, whatever floats your boat, and flip normals. And then now it's the other way, right? So now it looks like the other foot. So now I got that, and basically you can do the same thing. Your edit, make solid, and accurate, accept. Alright, got me a foot. Everything is a foot. Yeah. So and then you can export. It is a solid foot. Very solid foot. With a funny nub. I don't know what that is. And then yeah, you can put both your feet in here. I've already showed you what you would need to know, so the rest of this is unnecessary. Unnecessary silliness. You guys have 2 feet? And slice 2 feet. Yep. Yep, that's how you make some points into a thing that you can stick to your printer. And that's it. That's it. That's some feet. Thank you for watching. And yeah.